If you value true love, then listen carefully, because true love is not found in perfect moments, it is revealed in imperfect hearts that choose each other again and again. If you value true love, heart-touching if you value true love, then you must first understand that true love never arrives loudly. It does not knock with fireworks or dramatic confessions. It walks in quietly, like a familiar soul, sitting beside you when the world feels too heavy. I once heard a love story where two people didn't fall in love at first sight, but slowly, in moments so small they almost went unnoticed. It started with listening, with staying, with choosing to understand instead of walking away. True love begins exactly where attraction gets tired, where beauty fades into reality, and where hearts decide whether they will remain or run. If you value true love, remember this: true love is not made of sweet words spoken in front of the world, but of honest actions done in private. In that story, he didn't promise her the stars, but he sat with her in her darkest nights. She didn't claim forever in loud voices, but she held his hand when his confidence was breaking. True love does not shout, "I will never leave," it proves it by staying even when leaving feels easier. If you value true love, you must respect its silence. Love is not always laughter and photographs and celebrations. Sometimes love is quiet, sometimes it is two hearts sitting together, wounded by life, saying nothing, yet understanding everything. In that love story, there were days without messages, days without smiles, but there was never a day without care. True love survives silence because it is built on trust, not constant reassurance. If you value true love, you will never use it as a weapon. True love does not manipulate, control, or humiliate. It does not demand perfection while offering pain. In that story, they made mistakes, but they never made each other feel small. They healed each other slowly, carefully, like fragile glass, knowing that love should be a safe place, not a battlefield. And if you truly value true love, then understand this final truth: love is a decision made every single day. Not just on happy days, but on tired days, angry days, uncertain days. In that love story, forever was not a promise spoken once, but a choice repeated daily. Because true love is not about finding the right person, it is about becoming the right person for the one you choose to stay with. If you value true love, protect it, respect it, and choose it, even when it asks you to grow instead of escape. True love begins at the exact moment when attraction no longer feels exciting, when the butterflies grow tired, and when reality quietly takes the place of fantasy. Attraction is fast, beautiful, and effortless. It is the smile that steals your breath, the first conversation that feels magical, the way someone looks perfect in your eyes because you have not yet seen their flaws. Attraction loves the idea of a person, but true love learns the truth of a person. In every love story that lasts, there is a moment where attraction steps back and asks a question: will you still stay when the magic becomes ordinary? In that love story, it started with stolen glances and racing hearts, but true love did not reveal itself then. It revealed itself on tired evenings, when patience was tested and misunderstandings appeared without warning. Attraction wanted excitement, but love wanted effort. Attraction cared about how they looked together, but love cared about how they felt apart. That is where true love slowly took its first breath, not in perfection, but in acceptance. True love begins when you see someone without filters, without imagination filling the gaps. You notice their fears, their insecurities, their broken parts, and you realize they are not what you dreamed of, yet somehow they feel more real than the dream itself. In that story, she saw his weaknesses, and he saw her emotional storms. Attraction might have walked away, but love chose to understand. Love listened instead of judging, stayed instead of escaping, and learned instead of assuming. When attraction fades, effort begins. True love is built in moments where choosing someone requires courage. It is in apologies whispered softly, in compromises made silently, in sacrifices that no one else sees. Attraction only needs feelings, but love needs intention. Love asks you to grow, to heal, to become better, not for yourself alone, but for the one you choose. In the story, they did not stay because it was easy, they stayed because leaving would mean losing something meaningful. True love begins when you stop asking what you can gain and start asking what you can give. When holding on becomes more important than showing off. When staying feels heavier than leaving, yet you stay anyway. Attraction celebrates beginnings, but true love survives middles. It lives in routine, in effort, in choosing the same person even on days when they are hard to love, when emotions are messy, when life feels overwhelming, and when the heart must decide whether love is just a feeling or a promise lived quietly every day. True love is not measured by the promises spoken in emotional moments, but by the presence shown in difficult ones. Promises are easy when hearts are full and days are bright. Anyone can say, "I will always be here," when love feels light and exciting. But true love reveals itself when words become quiet and life becomes heavy. In every real love story, there comes a time when promises are tested by distance, by exhaustion, by misunderstandings, and by silence, and only presence has the power to hold two hearts together. In that love story, he did not write long messages about forever, but he showed up when she felt invisible. She did not make dramatic vows, but she stayed awake listening when his world was falling apart. True love was not in what they said to each other, but in where they stood when everything else tried to pull them apart. Presence meant choosing to stay, even when there was nothing to gain, even when emotions were tired, even when love felt more like responsibility than romance. Promises live in the future, but presence lives in the moment. True love understands that what someone needs is not a perfect tomorrow, but a steady today. Being present means listening without rushing, holding space without fixing, and caring without conditions. In the story, there were days when solutions were impossible, but presence was enough. Sitting beside each other in silence became an act of love stronger than any promise of forever. True love chooses presence during arguments, not disappearance. It chooses conversation over avoidance, patience over pride. When things became uncomfortable, attraction would have escaped, but love leaned in. Love stayed through misunderstandings, through emotional storms, through moments when walking away seemed easier than staying. Presence meant choosing the relationship even when the ego wanted to win. In that love story, presence was waking up every day and choosing the same person again. It was answering the call even when tired, showing care even when unappreciated, and standing firm even when the future felt uncertain. True love does not promise a life without pain, but it offers a heart that will not abandon you in pain. It shows up not only for celebrations, but for breakdowns, not only for smiles, but for tears. True love understands that promises can be forgotten, broken, or delayed, but presence leaves a memory in the heart that never fades. Being there creates safety, trust, and belonging. Presence turns love from a beautiful idea into a lived experience, from a spoken vow into a daily action, from a dream into something real and human, something felt deeply in moments when the world feels empty and only one person's presence makes it bearable. True love is not measured by laughter shared on sunny days or by joyful moments captured in photographs. It is revealed in silence, in the spaces where words fail, where emotions are heavy, and where hearts feel fragile. In every heart-touching love story, there comes a time when smiles disappear, when conversations fade, and when life's burdens create a quiet distance. True love does not vanish in these moments. Instead, it stays, it endures, and it finds ways to be present even when words are not enough. In that story, there were evenings when neither of them spoke, not because they didn't care, but because life felt too overwhelming to put feelings into words. He was exhausted from his struggles, she was hurt from hers, and the room was filled with a quiet tension that could have broken anything built on mere attraction. Yet true love did not leave. It stayed in the shared space, in the subtle gestures, in the way hands found each other on the couch, in the way a simple glance could say what words could not. Smiles are easy, but staying in silence requires courage, patience, and commitment. True love understands that silence is not emptiness, it is a language of its own. In silence, hearts speak truths that words cannot express. In the story, she knew he was anxious without him saying a word. He understood her grief without her needing to explain it. Attraction could have faded during these quiet, uncomfortable moments, but love chose to remain. It recognized that the absence of words did not mean the absence of connection. It recognized that staying close during silence is more powerful than fleeting joy during smiles. Love that only exists in laughter is fragile. True love is resilient. It stays when moods are low, when words fail, when fears rise, and when life becomes unpredictable. In that story, they learned to be comfortable in silence, to sit together without needing to fix each other, to hold space for emotions that were too raw for conversation. The comfort of being present without forcing words is a sign of deep love, a love that values the soul over appearances. True love stays when it could leave, it listens when it could ignore, and it cares when it could retreat. Smiles will come and go, but silence will always test the strength of love. In their love story, moments of silence became a mirror, reflecting the depth of their commitment, the patience of their hearts, and the quiet, unwavering presence that true love demands. It was in those moments that they discovered the real meaning of being together, the meaning that no smile alone could ever reveal, the meaning that only presence and silence could teach. True love is a gentle force, a quiet presence that restores rather than destroys. It does not thrive on control, jealousy, or manipulation, nor does it use words as weapons or silence as punishment. In the most touching love stories, true love is revealed in its power to heal the wounds that life and past mistakes have left behind. It sees the broken pieces of a heart, not as flaws to be criticized, but as treasures to be nurtured and protected. Love that hurts is temporary, built on fear or desire, but love that heals lasts because it chooses care over conflict, compassion over criticism, and understanding over judgment. In that love story, she carried scars from past heartbreaks, and he carried regrets that shadowed his present. Attraction might have been overwhelmed by these imperfections, might have faltered at the weight of pain, but love chose a different path. True love does not demand perfection, it accepts the cracks and patiently fills them with kindness. He did not rush her to forget her pain, nor did he try to fix her entirely in a single moment. Instead, he listened to her fears, offered comfort without expectation, and allowed her to grow stronger within his support. Her heart, once heavy and guarded, began to soften and trust again because love offered a space where healing was possible. True love heals in ways that are often unseen. It is in the gentle touch that reassures, the quiet words that comfort, the moments of patience that remind someone they are valued even when they feel unworthy. In the story, there were days when tears fell, when mistakes were made, and when doubts crept in like shadows. Yet love never retaliated. Instead, it stayed calm, steady, and present. It taught that mistakes do not diminish worth and that vulnerability does not demand rejection. Through this presence, hearts learned that they could recover, that trust could be rebuilt, and that past wounds did not have to define the future. True love does not hurt to teach a lesson or to assert power. It chooses to lift, to support, and to mend. It knows that the greatest gift in any relationship is emotional safety, a place where both hearts can breathe freely without fear of judgment. In that story, love was the balm for old scars, the light for dark days, and the warmth that softened hardened hearts. It showed that when love heals, it transforms pain into growth, fear into courage, and despair into hope. It reshapes hearts not by breaking them, but by holding them tenderly, by believing in their capacity to love again, and by walking alongside them as they discover their own strength. True love is not born in a single heartbeat or a single moment of passion. It is not something that arrives fully formed and permanent, like a lightning strike that lights up the sky and disappears. True love is a series of choices, small and quiet, repeated over and over again. Every day, it asks us whether we will stay, whether we will understand, whether we will show up, even when it is hard, even when it feels ordinary, even when emotions fluctuate. In every heart-touching love story, the most enduring love is the love that survives not because it was instantaneous but because it is chosen daily. In that story, their first meeting was full of sparks, laughter, and excitement, but those moments alone could not sustain them. There were mornings when he woke tired, frustrated, or distracted, and she woke anxious, fearful, or irritable. It would have been easy to retreat, to take offense, or to leave, but love is found not in ease, but in persistence. Each day, they made a choice to listen more than argue, to care more than criticize, to forgive more than blame. True love demands attention, care, and intention. It is not the feeling that makes love last, it is the decision to act with love consistently, even when feelings falter. True love is a conscious practice. It is remembering birthdays, but also remembering the unspoken hurts. It is planning adventures, but also sitting silently through ordinary routines. In the story, there were arguments that could have ended everything, yet they chose to understand instead of win. They chose to communicate instead of withdrawing, to compromise instead of insisting, to nurture instead of neglecting. Each of these daily choices became the foundation of a bond stronger than fleeting passion. True love is resilient because it is intentional. Feelings change like seasons, but decisions shape the landscape of a relationship. In that story, some days were full of laughter and closeness, while others were clouded by frustration, doubt, or fatigue. Love survived not because it was always easy, but because both hearts chose to show up every day, to choose connection over indifference, patience over anger, presence over escape. Daily decisions weave a pattern that attraction alone cannot create, a pattern that builds trust, intimacy, and a sense of safety that endures. True love is a commitment lived moment by moment. It is waking up and deciding to care, to forgive, to nurture, to stay, to be present, to listen, to embrace imperfection, and to honor the bond that exists between two hearts. It is understanding that love is not simply felt, it is acted upon, again and again, and that in those repeated choices lies the depth, the resilience, and the beauty of a love that truly lasts.